This is going to be dispatches. And basically, it's where I take about 30 minutes to talk about a topic. Similar to missives used to be. But really just kind of take a single topic instead of a slew of topics over like an hour or so, or a half hour, or I'm sorry, an hour and a half. Was do one over a half hour. And the thing that seems to be eating up good to see you too, Mary. Like, the thing that seems to be eating up a lot of bandwidth in the news lately, obviously, is Chicago, and Portland, which is absolutely not going to plan. Not well, I shouldn't say that, because it's going exactly to plan for the people that have, I guess, planned it, which they didn't really plan it. So part of the reason I do this is not to spread copium or hopium or whatever you want to call it. It's really to kind of look at this from sort of a fact-based perspective, so you don't get caught up in the doom and gloom. There are a lot of things in this administration to be concerned about, but the occupation of cities, as disturbing and as chaotic as it is, and probably one of the things that's going to hurt the most people right now, is that, but it's by far wholly ineffective if you're trying to have a fascist regime, like in the actual sense of the word, where Stephen Miller said plenary authority. Someone did a Google search on Carl Schmitt, as Heather Cox Richardson pointed out. For those of you who aren't aware, and you might hear that name, the far right MAGA, there was the guy who was basically sort of the brainchild behind Nazi ideology, that kind of codified it after Hitler, was Carl Schmitt during the Third Reich. So, like a lot of these far right Christian nationalists, like, espouse a lot of Carl Schmitt's ideas, which is basically all authorities tied up into one dictator, and everything flows through that. And so, you might hear that name, and if you do hear that name, that's what it is. Hey, Ellie Leonard's here. Like, look at that. And so, like, the thing you have to keep in mind about this is where you need to look for what's going to go on is not at Nazi Germany. It's actually in Russia going on right now. And Russia is getting their behind kicked by the Ukrainians. And a big part of that has to do with culture. It has to do with how their society is structured. And the reason that is not just the Ukrainians have racism, they have sexism, they have their own problems with white nationalism and all that, just like every other country, European based country does. Every country in the world has their problems with racism, without exception. But the difference is, we're really talking about an authoritarian society versus a free society or a democratic society. And the reason democratic societies tend to hold up better against authoritarian societies is because authoritarians are too restrictive. Any kind of innovation, if there is innovation, has to flow up through to the top. And the dictator, doesn't want innovation. They don't want change because they already have what they seek, which is power. So it's concentrated in the hands of very few people. They don't want change. And that's what's happened in America, is we did that sort of economically, where we created an elite class and we widened that gap between the haves and the have-nots. And so when that popular movement started, MAGA, which is basically a populist movement, arose, they wanted to elect a dictator to fix it. The problem is, though, MAGA doesn't want to fix their culture. And their culture is exactly why we have authoritarianism and oppression. That's the rub. And the thing is, authoritarian societies can only go so far. And what you're seeing, and I've said this before, I said this yesterday, you're seeing the extinction burst, right? You are seeing the end of this. And Portland and Chicago, that's what this is. It's part of the extinction burst. It's part of the end of this, right? And the reason I say that is, what's really the objective for that? I mean, I'm speaking like militarily, logistically. What's the objective? There is no objective. It's just spectacle and fear. That's it. It's just bullying and intimidation. So, you're not taking ground, right? You're not trying to, like, there's no military objective to really even speak of. It's going in and, intimidating a lot of people of color and immigrants and kidnapping them and, shredding the Constitution. And then it's it. It's over because the spectacle's over. Because the spectacle has run its course. And so because Donald Trump is a TV guy and all these other, and the people he's hired, like Russell Voigt and Stephen Miller, they're spectacle people. They're people that are ideologically based, thoroughly corrupt and unethical, and they don't live in the real world. If Stephen Miller really thinks he's going to deport every Hispanic and create a pure white country and then go on to, of course, everyone who's non-white, he's dreaming. It's impossible. It can't happen. Well, let's put it this way. It's so improbable as to make it impossible. And so what's he left with? Spectacle. Intimidate people to try to get them to self-deport or whatever and, show off his power. And I mean, the fact of the matter is like, as a nation, part of the reason that it's so hard for us to really get anything done is because we're so big and massive. There's so much of America, and you got to get so much consensus to get anything done. However, that's the same thing that will honestly keep why totalitarianism will be a failure. Because Americans as a whole don't really agree on much. Except for the release of the Epstein files, which I should really ask Ellie Leonard if she wants to come in and give us an update since she's in the chat, and I'll pull her in here. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at with this. Is we are seeing Ellie says, okay, I'm going to pull her in. Because it's always better to talk to someone else, especially Ellie Leonard, if I've got her. Like, why not? I mean, I'm inviting you now. So, but yeah, I look at Chicago and I look at Portland, and I mean, Portland, it's like they have National Guardsmen getting like voodoo donuts.
Hey,
There she is.
I'm walking away from the dishes. How's it going?
It's going. I've had a busy but wonderful day. It's
Great.
good. I'm talking now about Portland and Chicago and trying to steer away from the doom and gloom stuff. Because a lot of the stuff,
The war-torn zones.
the war-torn cities where you can go get voodoo donuts and run in a marathon in Portland.
Yeah, used books and, organic coffee.
It's right. I used to love like the Portlandia. I used to love watching them grow. And then they had the what was it, the gentle concert, and they were like whoever was most gentle. And the woman that won was just she had like a string of feathers That just the breeze blew them.
They're the okay, I lived in Seattle for a long time. They're, like, the one place it's, like, made fun of for being more liberal and calm and, like, half and half organic versions of their coffee and, their oat milks and their nut milks and their yeah, like, they were the only one that beat us, so interesting choice. It's an interesting choice of a place to invade with the National Guard, but, you know, we're all talking about it.
Right. I will say this. How much does must it suck to be part of the Texas National Guard? Because you are sent out to every BS political ops thing that Greg Abbott just wants to pull out of his butt, right? You're sent to the border to look at the Rio Grande. You're sent to like Southwest New Mexico. You're sent to freaking Chicago, and everyone hate like the city
Yeah.
that the city that literally has a hot dog stand where they'll curse at you. That's part of the shtick, right?
You know, I'm sure the messaging they're getting is that it's all positive and it's also great and it's also wonderful. They're probably not hearing the rest of us going, "Oh, this is so terrible." But they're probably being fed this idea of, like, the whole military idea of, "You'll get to travel. You'll get to see places for free that you've never seen before. You get to go to Chicago on our dime." And so they're probably really excited. They're probably like, "This is gonna be great."
Oh
And
no,
they get
no,
there
no,
and
no,
realize that everybody hates them and starts
no, no. As a reservist, it's like you're at your job where your boss is like, like hates the fact that you're a reservist to begin with
Yeah.
because they always lose you to either drill or whatever. And your coworkers can't stand it. And so now you're like, hey, bro, we got to go to Chicago. It's like, oh my God, no,
Yeah. In the middle
really?
of your kid's birthday party. Sorry.
Right. Like, yeah, he's like, you got to go. And you're like, and your boss is like, are you going to get somebody to cover for you for work? Like, no, dude, I have to go because Greg Abbott says, because the president says there's war torn. And it's like, where are you putting us up? Oh, we're going to bivouac in a garage. Fantastic. So
Floor. You just sleep on the floor.
I can't sleep in my bed at home.
Mhm.
I have to go sleep in a garage out in the elements in Chicago.
Yeah.
And you're going to give me, it's like, so you're going to feed me MREs and say I don't get per diem. So, right. If I want
Well, let's
to
hope
go,
it makes them mad, you know? Let's hope it makes them mad and they start talking. That's all we're asking. We just want a few icing to
yes,
be like, "Oh, right, this is wrong. I have things to say about how I was trained and what I was told to do." Like, it just takes a couple, out of the thousands that they have, there's gotta be a couple who are a little bit pissed.
I want to, if I was a Texas National Guardsman, I would go to Pritzker and ask for asylum. And can I get
Like, show
asylum?
me Pennsylvania or show me these states that are just woo me and I'll leave Texas.
Right. It's like, can I have political asylum here? Can I just be so I don't have to go back to Texas?
Yeah, I don't know. Is Texas still trying to seed? Like, are they trying to, like, get out of here? Because 'Cause we're okay with
They,
it.
they will never do that because they have so much federal money and they can't function on their own
Yeah.
because their state's so screwed up. That's the thing, right? You remember back months ago when Nebraska was going bankrupt?
No, tell me more.
So like this is when ICE was first forming, right? And then Stephen Miller's like, "Oh yeah, we really are going to just start deporting, you know, illegals. Like we're just going to go into the farms and we're going to just round people up." And so there was the first wave of people just saying, "Oh, okay, well, see ya,"
Mhm.
right? And so a lot of people left, like in the cattle industry and everything else. And so suddenly they go, "Oh my god, um, we're now projected to have a shortfall because we don't have enough workers to get the cattle like processed and all the things that need to happen. Our state's going to go into debt." So then the governor was begging Trump for a state bailout
Yeah.
and for ICE to leave them alone to give them an exception.
Yeah.
And so then this is actually when all the FAFO stuff started
Mm.
because you had all these ranchers who are like,
Right.
yeah, all our workers didn't show up today. It's like,
We have well, I mean, this is not even ranch work, but, like, our family has a 3,000-acre wheat farm in north
wow.
central Montana, and it's not all of it's plantable. It's been in CRP, which means we've been paid not to plant anything on it for a long time. It doesn't really have any value other than it is just land that's been in our family for like 70 years or something. Um, but like the value of the bushel of wheat has just gone. Like, it was a thriving wheat farm. It was where my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and everybody would come back and cut wheat in the summer. And that was like how you survive. Because my dad was a teacher. That was how you survived over the summer when you weren't being paid to teach. You go cut.
Yeah.
Um, my uncle bought it out from the family. He voted for Trump. He still supports Trump. And the value has gone down so far since purchasing it, and yet he still continues to support Trump, and he doesn't connect those two things. And it's like, and I just want to, yeah. Anyway, that was just my little side note. But like, it's that idea of being like smacked in the face and smacked in the face, and you're like, wait, get this side too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Well, I mean, Jesus did say, if
Yeah.
a man such, you have to show him turn the other cheek.
You're like, please hit me again. No, you know what I think of is I think of the Ace Ventura when he says "hit me again, Ike." That's like the motto. If I was gonna get a MAGA hat, that's what it would say. You know what I mean? Because it's like we are the abused spouse. This country is the abused spouse, where you continue to fight for your abuser, right? You're being beat down, but you're like, no, he's great. You just don't understand. He's great. That's how I felt. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No. For me, I think it's one thing that's real, like the Trump regime and all of Trump in the past 10 years has really shown me is just Fox News. All of that is the power of propaganda, especially on social media, and just how important culture is over everything else. And so, like, politics is, like how Clausewitz called war as like politics is a continuation of, like, war is a continuation of politics, right? So that's what Clausewitz said.
Right.
I think politics is like just a continuation of culture. That's really it. And so I was always like, I used to be like this Aristotelian where I thought politics drove everything, and in a way it does, but it's the mechanism, not like culture is what drives politics. And to your uncle and people like him, it's they don't want to give up that programming, like that, like this is the way it is and this is the way it should be.
Right.
Because if I don't like, and to question it would be such a psychic blow.
There's so much pride. Like, imagine
It would shatter their psyche. It would everything, their identity, everything about them, right?
Yeah, I would guess it would be, I don't know. This is a dumb metaphor, but like finding out you were adopted when you're like 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like everything everything, you put all your eggs in one basket for this entire time. You've marched in the parades, you've waved the flags, and then to realize that it was all false the entire time, that would be such a blow to your pride that I don't know if they, like, I feel like there's a good chunk of them that know that at this point, but they're still fighting for the thing that they know is not okay.
I mean, like, you look at it as, it's even worse than that, right?
Yeah.
Because it would be one thing if, let's say, Trump was like a Mitt Romney figure, right? And Romney's way smarter than him, but like you had someone, I'm going to run this country like a business, right?
Yeah.
And he came in and he had some ideas and they tried to implement them and they were bad. Like, for one reason or another, it was kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
But they actually tried in good faith to do this. They were just flawed and didn't see this or whatever and blah, blah, blah. Trump is literally like the worst president we've ever had.
Oh, I had this
like
debate.
by a mile, right?
My husband and I had this debate for years because he was like, well, George Bush. And now he's finally like, no, George Bush doesn't hold a candle.
No, George Bush was like, upon further review.
Yeah.
By comparison.
Our bar is much lower now.
By comparison, it's like, well, he at least didn't enact domestic terrorism.
Right.
And he did good things in Africa. Like, he legitimately did the most for the AIDS epidemic over there and HIV than any other president.
I just want him to say something. Now he's being spineless now. You know what I mean? Like, he could say something, and I know these people are on their high horse and they're like, we're not going to get involved in politics now. We've moved on. But it's like, I don't know anybody, like anybody with any kind of platform who's not speaking up at this point. I kind of want to be like, dude, you would be so complicit in World War II at this point. Like, speak up.
Maybe we can get him to paint something to express himself, like his basement, and he paints.
No, I don't know. That's too funny.
He's a painter now, Every time I see one of his paintings, it always reminds me of, the mom from Goodfellas, And it's like, you like my painting? And it's like, it's like, why are the dogs going two different ways? It's like, wait, what? What's the problem? One dog's going this way, one dog's going this way.
He's a great C+ student. He's champion at all things.
That is probably like the harshest Ellie Leonard insult I've heard. He's a great.
Oh, there's more. There's more. Look for special moments.
So what's going on with the Epstein front besides the fact that the files aren't released? And Pam Bondi says there's apparently not a list,
these people are so dumb. It's like, you think Epstein didn't have a cell phone? Like, we all have a list. Like, if you work for anybody, if your kids go to school, like, we have a list. So to say that he doesn't have a Rolodex somewhere in a drawer is unlikely. Hold on, I'm going to get out of this room. It's very unlikely because he is Jeffrey Epstein and he had a cell phone. He probably had many cell phones. So he has a list. There's a list, and it's whoever has his phone. So whether that's the Epstein estate, if that is the FBI stuff. But here's the deal, because I was talking with Nick earlier, and I just wrote an article about the 4 women who worked for Epstein, who were his assistants, who got immunity in his first case, who are just out living their lives now. And one of them, on a day or two before they raided his house in 2008, took all his hard drives and all his electronics out of the house. So somebody tipped her off. And so we don't know where that stuff is. We don't know where all those hard drives are. So there was a ton of stuff that went missing before the FBI got there. So there's things that are not at the DOJ. There's things that are somewhere. But there is a list, like, and even in the Black Book. So I'm very slowly vetting the Black Book, right? I'm going through each person, figuring out who they are, linking them up, categorizing them into like financial people, academia, authors, musicians, whatever. There are people in there who were victims, who are listed in the Black Book. So that is a partial list, and that's got 2,000 people on it. Like, there's a lot of people on it. And it's unredacted, and we have the whole thing. So I just don't like I just finished typing up all the Ghislaine Maxwell interviews last night, and I'm going to kind of review it, do a final review tonight. But she continues to say that no such list exists. And I just think that that's so silly for a guy who lived until 2019, because he would have had a cell phone at least since like 2000. So he had a contact list. He had a contact list of people he worked with. He had a contact list of people he got massages with. Like, he had a contact list, and she had a contact list. Her phone would have had probably even more people. His assistant, Sarah Kellen, would have had a ton of people on her phone. And so it's like, where are all these phones, and why were they not like taken into possession of the FBI? Why don't we have those? Because that's going to be your list. Like, it's not going to be like on a paper in a drawer. It's not like hanging on his fridge. It's his cell phone.
Right. Well, and it's funny because their attempts to dodge it is so transparent. It's pathetic, right? Because she was asked, I'm trying to remember which senator asked her, about the picture with Trump and the young women, right? And she insulted him about like, oh, you must hate Trump and blah, blah, blah. But she didn't say no. So she's
Never
not
says no.
right. Because so she's not on so she has wiggle room later when they bring her in.
I mean, she's not terribly smart, but she's smart about her answers and how she answers it, because she always goes, at least I don't think so, not to my knowledge. She never says no, she says not to my knowledge. And so that gets her out, because she can say that she didn't know something if it turns out to be true. In this interview, these 2 days of interviews, like something like 8 hours or something, I don't know how long they were. she is asked about Donald Trump. He is mentioned 3 times. Bill Clinton is asked about 43 times in that interview.
Of course.
They avoid, and if she did nothing else, she convinced me that Bill Clinton didn't do anything, which I went into that just assuming he did. If she's telling the truth, he might not have. He might not have done anything, which would be shocking to me because I just assumed. But they absolutely avoided talking about Donald Trump in that entire interview. And she does lie. Like, she says a ton of things. Like, the big thing that, like, Zev and I found was when we found out that Robert Maxwell actually knew Jeffrey Epstein in the early 70s because the birthday book came out.
Right.
And there's a letter in there that's like, hey, remember when we used to all hang out in the early 70s and you knew his teenage daughter? Well, that would have been her. He knew Ghislaine Maxwell when she was a teen. That was a huge thing because she's sitting there saying she didn't meet him until 1991, had never heard of him before. That would have been almost 20 years later. She talks about, like, there's one point where she talks about watching. I don't know if she knew what she was saying, but she's like, oh, he didn't do this kind of sexual act, but I saw them do blowjobs or something like that. And and then 5 minutes later, he goes, right, because you said they did blowjobs. She goes, I never said that. And it's like, I can scroll up and I can see it. I can highlight it. I have the transcript. So it's like she was just so contradictory because she doesn't know when she's contradicting herself because she's speaking so quickly.
Right.
And there's just so many weird things. Like, she dropped a bomb that Jeffrey Epstein she thinks he has a kid and she thinks she knows whose kid it is, which will be interesting. So I'll write about that tonight. But, like, there's just a lot of stuff that she said, and she kind of, I feel like she shoved it all into the end because she knew it was coming, and she was like, I got to get out of this prison. I'm going to shove all this stuff into the end. Um, but there's, like, weird stuff. There's so much more to dig into in
Right.
this. Never ending. It really is never ending.
It's at this point, I mean, because I guess because it seems like it's so vast and there's so much
Hmm.
to it. I'm waiting for I'm just waiting for the thing that's gonna pop it open. You
Yeah.
know,
And there's,
like,
yeah.
because
Just,
there's no hiding it at this point. Like,
it's hiding in plain sight because we do have a lot of information, but I think everybody is relying on somebody else to tell them what is in that information instead of, like, reading through it. And granted, like, the stuff they've released 30,000 pages. We have access to 30,000 pages that we've had access to for a long time. They re-released them this year like they were brand new, like, here you go. But it was something we already had. But it's like, who of us has read those 30,000 pages? Because when I have gone through and actually read certain bits and pieces, like when they released like 6 pages last week, there was a lot in those 6 pages, and I wasn't hearing anybody talk about them, and I was, like, actually reading the things. Like, there's ledgers with actual payments to Prince Andrews for, like, massage that it cost $200. Well, guess what? All the victims said that they got paid $200 to give massages to, like, Jeffrey Epstein, and you know what I mean? Like, it's right there in his bank statements. And I was like, why isn't anybody talking about this? Here we go. We got a piece of paper. And then, like, when he said Epstein had or Elon Musk had been invited to the island and all these different things, like, it just felt like nobody was talking about it for a bit, and then everybody was talking about just Elon, but there's, like, all this other stuff in just 6 pages. Like, just 6 pages had a lot of information in it. They redacted people from this flight manifest in the 6 pages, yet you can go back to the flight logs and figure out who those 2 people were. Like, we have access to the information, but we just have to look for it, and I feel like a lot of, unless you're like a Michael Wolff, like, a lot of newspapers are just kind of glossing over stuff or hearing it through the grapevine what has been released, but not actually reading it themselves. So I'm trying to fit it in. Like, I have 15 minutes in the morning after the bus, and then I have like 25 minutes on my lunch break, and I'm just, like, scouring things, trying to find stuff out. And then I go back to work, and they're like, "Oh, you need to, like, clap erasers now." It just feels so stupid, but I'm just
what are you doing for work now?
I'm working as a para-ed at my son's school, which is a
Oh,
fine job. It's, like, 2 blocks from my house. It's really good, but I feel like it's so temporary, Like, I feel like
yeah.
I'm supposed to be doing this, and so I'm just trying to, like, do it as much as I can around the time that I have until I can just do this, and that's ultimately the goal. But, like, yeah, it kind of, when I'm there, I'm just like, "Okay, clocking in now."
I'm waiting for the day when, you go into work and then your coworkers refer to you as like, that's the Epstein girl. And you're like, no, 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 don't call me that. No.
I know a lot of them are, like, really red Republicans, and I kinda feel like a spy a little bit, like, I do feel like a spy. Like, one of them asked me how sad I was about Charlie Kirk, and I was like, and I was like, I didn't know the guy." So I just
I
feel like
my res-
one of
my
these
res-
days, someone's gonna find out I have a Substack or I wrote an article, and they're gonna be like, "Wait," and then just, like, search for me online, and then it'll be all over.
yeah, it's like I would my response to that would be like, I'm as sad as I should be.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad when anybody gets shot. It's shocking. I would say it's more shocking than sad because I'm not emotionally connected to him. I didn't know him, but it's shocking when someone gets shot. Let's put it that way. It's jarring. But I mean, for better or for worse, we had our own like trauma happening that week within our own family and like friends
Oh yeah.
back in our home state. So we were totally. I was just not even focused on it. I knew it was going on, but I was just like, I have this nice big distraction that I'm going to deal with anyway. So
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they had their pyrotechnics memorial, wrestling
that was
event.
wild. That was like a Super Bowl. What were they doing? That was really interesting.
But it was like, we're gonna keep the grift going. Here's his grieving wife.
I know. I don't get his wife. Like, I don't whenever I see someone's wife and this is totally judging a book by the cover, it's judging her based on her appearance and the way she sounds. It's like you it's like you made her out of a cake mix. It's like everybody can go to the same you know what I mean? Like, everybody can go to the store and get the same wife. They just have to get the kit. You know what I mean? And this is not to judge anybody's character, but it's just like, how do you guys all have the same wife? Why do they all look like the same person? Like, where's the variety in humanity?
No, there's no variety. It's just this.
Yeah,
It's just
it's weird. It's very Stepford. It's bringing back
oh
the Stepford.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I take
It's
care of
the
the Republican,
and
like,
it's a lie though. That's the funny part. Is like, Erica Kurt. Oh yeah, she's a trad wife. It's like, no, she's a sociopathic like corporate shark.
I
Like,
know. It is
you
weird
know,
because I feel like based on revenge alone, she's gonna do a lot of things that probably Charlie would not have even done himself. So I'm just like, I feel a little scared. She kinda freaks me out, but I don't know. Maybe they're past that already.
I don't I think like basically she's stepping into it because you saw JD Vance and some other people that wanted to take that, right? That were basically just,
Mm.
well, I guess we're gonna run Turning Points USA. And she was like, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no,
I know,
no.
it's very weird and I don't know. I wrote an article about well, I took a minute to write about Charlie Kirk because I was just like, I don't think anyone needs my 2 cents. Everybody's already writing about this. But I wrote about kind of the moral dilemma of having empathy as a human based on humanity when someone is killed versus looking back at everything he's ever said and how devastating it is to how many different specific communities and how do you can't turn off empathy. Like, I think that the first reaction we had when hearing or seeing him get shot is probably our gut instinct of how we feel about humanity. Like, if we're dancing on a table, that's probably probably says something about our character. I mean, there are people who felt sad immediately or like gut punch immediately and then went and danced on a table. But I think our first instinct is intuitively who we are as a person. You have empathy even if someone is awful. If we had seen, let's say, worst case scenario, if we had seen like Putin shot on TV, it's jarring. Terrible guy, horrible dictator. But like if you saw it happen, it would affect you in a negative way for at least a period of time, for a minute, maybe a short period of time. I don't know. Maybe I'm just speaking to myself.
Do you want to know what my
Go for
reaction
it.
was?
Go.
So my reaction was somebody, I found out, and they're like, "There's video," and a buddy of mine sent it to me,
Uh,
and I'm watching it,
you watched
and I
it?
was like, "Oh yeah." I was like, I watched it, and I went. I called up my buddy who was a SWAT sniper, and I was like, "So where do you think the shooter was positioned?" He's like, "Man, I was looking at where he hit the round impacted the neck. He's probably like he was like, I think he was a left-handed shooter. He's probably aiming center." So we're literally just breaking down the shot. Like we're
Nice.
just like it
Ballistic.
was like what there was I felt nothing for him. It
I
was
see. I
just
know my limit because I took an EMT course and failed out of it once. And like, I know very well that I'm okay with blood and, like, healing people who are sick and whatever. I don't like to watch people die. Like, they used to play YouTubes, like, for us of, like, people dying horrible deaths, and I was like, "Yep, nope, that's my limit. That's not for me."
We were like, he's probably in an elevated position, which he was. And I was like, and we're like, yeah, I was like, what do you think he has? Like, it's like, I was like, I probably a 30-06, single shot, blah, blah, blah. And like, I was like, and my buddy's like, he probably aimed center mass and then he got adrenaline kicked in and
Mhm.
he pulled the trigger too much. And so the strike of the round went up and just happened to hit him in the neck. So he's like, I think he's pulling it and he's left-handed. He's like, maybe he's like, but he could be right. And so we were literally like, I was like, yeah, it makes sense. That
My
makes sense.
friends and I had a way different conversation about this, but that's okay.
This is what happens when you get like an infantry marine and
I know,
freaking,
yeah, no.
SWAT sniper, former infantry army. And
Yeah.
we're like, all right, it's like, the round didn't go through him. So, it's probably low velocity round. And so, it's like, all right, so it didn't impact anybody behind him, and there's no miss. And it's like, okay. He's like, man, he was at a bad spot. Yeah, dude. He was like freaking like, man,
Like, why do
he literally is a sitting duck,
why do
you
they
know.
keep putting I just don't get it. Like, they wanna ban everything, they wanna ban like, why not I mean, I posted a snarky thing. I was like, "We should start banning roofs," because every time they go somewhere, they're surrounded by these buildings with, like, flat roofs, and I just why would you put, like, a politically divisive person in the middle of an arena surrounded by places for people to shoot? I mean, with not
Well, I
having
just, that's the thing is these, and this again, it goes back to that culture, right?
Mhm,
He thought he was in amongst his people. He was in Utah. He was at a right wing campus. You know,
yeah.
like he was
He
safe,
got
right?
shot by a German, is that what happened?
He got shot by a Nick Fuentes, crazy because apparently
Yeah.
there's crazier people than you, Charlie.
Mm,
And that's the problem with extremism is at some point you're not going to be extreme enough and they're
yep,
going to take you out. You are going to be the one that needs to go.
yeah.
And that's why it's you don't want to go down this path. Hey, what's up, Nick? There he is.
Nick.
And then you don't want to go down this path because if you do, you're allowing this to happen without
Yeah,
holding people accountable. And so, yeah, he thought, and that's the thing. These right wingers, they don't think it's going to happen to them, even though violence happens to them. Just like with, oh, the ICE and taking away immigrants is like, oh, that'll happen elsewhere. No, fool, it's going to happen to you.
that's every voter. Like, all the
That's
things I'm voting for will never happen to me.
It's like, oh, Trump's going to do that to the people we hate. It's like, no, he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
He didn't care about you. Trump only cares about Trump. You know,
And it's
now
a
he's literally trying to scam God, because he talks about it now, like,
yeah,
well, I'm
by
trying to
his
be a good
label.
boy,
But
it's like,
it's a very weird so you have people who are malleable in the base, like, who see things eventually and go, "This kinda hurts and sucks, and I'm gonna rethink." Um, I come from somebody in my family who's not malleable, who when they get hit, they'll go, "Actually, that was the right way. The first way was the wrong way." And every time something changes and flips and they come and take their immigrant neighbor away, they'll go, "Oh, but it was probably for a reason. He probably had a criminal record." You know what I mean? Like, it's no matter how far it goes, they can keep justifying it. And it's scary because then that means you could do anything, right? And they'll
mhm,
continue to justify to the end, and it makes me scared about, like, I'm not scared, but I think about it, like, I am writing, politically active things.
yeah,
I'm not someone I still think I'm protected by writing because I don't think a lot of people in the base are doing a lot of reading, right? I'm not a visually public person. People are not talking about me on social media. So I think I'm protected by just writing because not a lot of readers. Um, but I think about, like, to what point would your own family member turn you in for something or speak up about you or say something? It's not gonna stop me, but I think about it because people were that convinced in Germany. People got that
yeah,
convinced in their own family members, and in hindsight, I don't know how many years it would have taken them to look back and realize, "Oh, I screwed up." if ever, just
If
private.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, people compartmentalize, they move on. It's just, but then here's the flip side. And this is kind of why, part of this talk is like, you also had people that hid their neighbors or strangers in
Right.
attics, that put their life and their family's life on the line to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So just as you have examples of humanity doing awful things, you have examples of humanity doing like selfless and amazing
Yeah.
things. And as a species, we've always been that way.
Yeah.
And this moment is the only reason we think it's anything different and unique is because it's happening in the present and it's
Yep.
happening to us.
Us. We're not reading about it in a book.
Right. And so,
You-
yeah.
Well,
Go
somebody
ahead.
was asking me because I wrote an article way long time ago. I don't remember what it called, but I based it on the story of Corey Ten Boom, and I don't know if you've read her story, but she's a very big, um, coming from like growing up in the church. She's a big Christian figure because she lived in, I believe, the Netherlands, and her family owned a clock shop, and they hid the Jews, like many, many, many Jews, until they all were put in the Holocaust. And so I was bringing back kind of this idea of this woman. And if it came down to it now, would you hide your neighbors? Like, would you open your front door in the middle of the night and hide your neighbors? And then I remember somebody coming to me and going, "Well, how do we let them know we're safe? Like, how even if they know we're safe, like how do they know? Because they're trying to save their own butts right now. Like they're scared to death." And I said, "You can stick a bumper sticker on your car that just says I voted for Kamala or something like that. Like, do
Yeah.
tiny little dog whistles on your property that aren't gonna, I don't think anybody's gonna egg your car, but like, do little things to show where you stand with your beliefs." So, what we did is we kept our signs. We're in a second floor apartment. So, it's like a house with two apartments. And we kept our signs in our window after the election for like a long time
Mhm.
because, like, we know people, like, my kid's friend disappeared. His whole family disappeared in the middle of the night, and like phone number gone, all our contact information with them gone.
Yep.
um because I know for sure their dad was undocumented. Mom might have been too, but he'd already been detained. Like they had visited family in Mexico and came back, and he'd gotten detained for 6 months. And so when all this started happening, gone overnight. Like, and my poor little kids, like, they play Roblox with him, and they're like trying to get on there, and he's gone. And that's been a huge conversation that we talk to them about because they don't know where their friend is. They're very upset.
Yeah.
Then we realized another family disappeared. Like, we live in a very big immigrant community, and there are families that have just disappeared, and they didn't move. They didn't go to another school district. They're just gone.
Yep.
And so it's like, how do you let people know in a worst case scenario if ICE comes to your school or your town? Like, how do you dog whistle that you're a safe person and they can come to you and they can go in your basement, or they can, or at least if their kids were born here, the parents can like hide and drop the kids off at your house, so that the kids are safer. And so there are little ways you can do that. But the thing is to just talk to people, like make sure you
Right.
talk to people so that they know, and they may still be untrustworthy because God bless them, they should be untrustworthy right now. You know what I mean? Like they shouldn't trust anybody. But there are ways to let people know very quietly that if anything happens, our house is a safe space. You call, you knock, you come in.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. No, I mean, and just kind of be prepared for that moment, right?
Mhm.
You know, um, I remember so when I was working in Greenville, North Carolina, and like the company I was working for, they put me up in these apartments, right? And it was full of young folks. It was, and lower income. Wasn't bad, but it wasn't swanky either. So there was a party one Saturday night, and and it got out of hand, and some shots popped off,
Mhm.
like pistol shots, and woke me up, right? I'm getting out, and I'm heading into, it was like right outside my window. I head into the front room, and I'm kind of just, I was like, I don't want to catch a stray, so I'm trying to catch, I'm
Yes.
sitting there just where I'm away from it. And I hear somebody else on my door, right?
Mhm.
And, I'm looking and it's just like, it's this young, African American kid and he's scared to death. He's just like, oh man, he's looking, and he's trying to hide, and we get another couple gunshots, right? And he's not, I can tell he's not armed. So I just opened the door. I said, yo, get the hell in here, man. He comes in the house and he's just like, I was like, yo, you got to ride with somebody? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, go over there, hit your people up. I said, there's a door. It heads to the hall. Get you out. You know, he's like, okay, he's like, he called him. Where are you? He's like, all right, I'll be there. I said, cool. The gate's over there. Let's head out.
Yeah.
And he went out the other door and he was gone. Right. And again, it was just, I didn't want to have a kid catch a stray on my porch.
Mhm.
You know?
It's not very hard. It's not hard to take care of people. You know what I mean?
No.
It should be harder to do the things that they're doing right now and the treatment that should be harder on an emotional level than it is to be kind to people. Like, it's super easy to be kind to people. Like,
Mhm.
giving your neighbor a meal is pretty easy. Um, and based on all the morals that are supposed to be on the right wing evangelical, like it's so objectively clear, and yet they can't see it. They can't see anything that they're doing.
Because I mean, it's this anger mixed with this righteous indignation. They think no matter what, their leaders and they are right, and the reason they don't question that is because if you did, I mean, like I said, it's not just that you know, oh man, Trump. When Trump was a rock star like David Bowie, he had an underage affair with an underage groupie that was famous at the time, right?
Yeah.
No, he did some really horrible things.
Yeah.
And so the problem is MAGA has elevated him to this damn near messianic status,
Yeah.
and he's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
And so to wrestle with that is so psychologically shattering. They just don't even want to go near it. So again, it's the same thing with the guns, right? It's like it's rooftops. It's this. Well, knives can kill people too. Well, what about cars? And
I got
it's
a comment this week. Like, I wrote about Katie Johnson. I wrote the whole story, and I was nervous about writing about it because I was like, are there like Substack standards for like the level of obscenity, like the darkness, and like how much of a trigger warning should I put on this to like it's heinous stuff. And people are responding like, yeah, but Biden sniffs people. And it's like, do you hear yourself? Like, that he sniffs people? Like, like, like the stuff that I learned this week that was a part of this lawsuit that was like, it was like represented by Gloria Allred's daughter, who's like a massive civil, like it's so verifiable. And you're complaining that somebody sniffed people, and yet here's Trump tying a 12-year-old to a bed. Like,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
mean, and doing the worst case scenario things. And you're worried about a guy who looks like he's smelling a child in a picture. Like, that's really your comeback? I mean, these people who for years have been telling us there's a cabal of child molesters out there, like,
And there
literally a
is.
cabal of child molesters. You have the paperwork. We have court documents. We have deposition, thousands and thousands and thousands of documents, yet you're going to go after a pizza shop. You're going to go after Tom Hanks for something that I still don't know what he did. Like, I just don't. If you have that much of a court case on your side, you have that much paperwork, bring it. But I don't see anything, and I see a giant case in a president who not only has been accused of these things, but he's been convicted of them. Like, he owes E. Jean Carroll $83 million because he raped her in a bathroom. He was convicted, right? I don't, it's just so beyond me how, like, it's absolute brainwashing. I don't know how else to say it. I feel like that's
No, it
just
is.
brainwashing.
It's how effective propaganda really, really is.
Yeah.
And we're at this moment where, I mean, you think about this. How many Epsteins in the past have there been that have trafficked this to powerful men, and we will never know who they were.
Still happening. It's
Right.
still happening. Like,
Right.
I mean, this is just in my own head, but like I live near Teterboro Airport where he was arrested, right?
Yeah.
I watched those Gulfstream planes fly over my house, those little private planes, every single day. They all look like Epstein's plane. Fly over my house, fly over my house, fly over my house. Those are all $100 million plus passengers flying over my house all day long. So I don't know how many people that is, but you have to think about. So I wrote an article last week, maybe, but it's about this restaurant called Cipriani's in New York. And Cipriani's is an Italian restaurant. It is a hub. But I wrote an article called House of a Thousand Epsteins because it is the place for every person you've ever thought of who is involved in anything like this goes and eats dinner. It is Epstein. It is Weinstein. It is Woody Allen. Sorry if that offends people. It is Woody Allen. It's Bill Cosby. It's all these people who are like central to massive sex scandals. Not just, they were accused and they were canceled during Me Too. Like massive sex scandals. Things where women who accused them were actually abused in the restaurant. This restaurant was funded. They got their loan from the Genovese crime family. Like, this stuff still happens. People still go there every day. Massively famous people, financial people, Hollywood people, politicians, everybody is still going there. It's a hub, and this stuff still exists. And whether it's happening right now, these people were still involved with Epstein as well and haven't gone down for it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, it's and the thing is, I think just even knowing like what we know now, or even Me Too, all these things, it's part of the change in this culture, right? Because part of it is like this is unacceptable. Whereas, like back in the 70s and the 80s, it was gross, but it wasn't, like what it is now.
Yeah.
And it's this is what we're grappling with, because the thing is, the right in what they say that they value, and what they're like, oh well, this is what we value, this is who we are, and you guys are the perverts. It's like, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. See the
And
comments.
for a
Comments
lot of
going
people,
off about Woody Allen. Woody Allen has caught the comments. Okay, go on.
the funny thing is, never really cared for Woody Allen as a filmmaker, even before it
Yeah,
just when.
I didn't either. The reason I know a lot about him is because I worked for a year and a half on the film with his daughter Dylan and Mia Farrow and even Alan Dershowitz. Like all the people that were involved in that case don't like Alan Dershowitz, but I heard a lot of stuff that has never been publicized. It's very, very, very off the record. And he is not allowed to babysit my children. And I've read all the court documents, and there's a lot of stuff where they go, "Oh, he passed a lie detector test. Oh, he was cleared by the state of New York." He wasn't. He hired the people who did the lie detector test. The police department were going to do their own objective test. He wouldn't let them. He hired his own private company with his own lawyers. So, which immediately makes it uncredible. And then they didn't clear him. The state police of Connecticut and New York, and then the local police department got together with Dylan's family, and they made a decision with her legal team whether or not to proceed because it would be so damaging to put her on a witness stand at 8 years old. And they ultimately decided they wanted to try to give her as much of a normal life as they could, and that's why the case ended. It had nothing to do with evidence, because the police were like, if you bring this to court, he'll go to prison. He will go to prison for 20 years. Like, they had everything they needed, but they would have to put her on the witness stand, and they didn't want to do that to her. So that is what it is. I know he has devoted fans, but I listened to interviews about him for 2 years, and I'm out. Like, not interested.
I never cared for Annie Hall, never cared for any of his films. I'm
If
just
you
like,
step back and look at his films objectively, they all have the same plot. It's the same.
yeah, I mean, it's just a dude whining, and then getting women that are way out of his league, you
Yeah, and
know.
I mean the objective funny thing about him is he's not a handsome guy, and it was the comedy of the not typical leading man, and I get that. But it's just, yeah, I in most cases can't separate the art from the artist. It's very hard for me when I know they've done things like Soon-Yi was not his daughter because he was never married to Mia Farrow, but um, she went to high school right by his apartment, and his doorman and his maid said that she'd been coming to his apartment for years while she was still in high school, long before they found out they were having an affair. So, and they did this all under oath, and there was a ton of stuff. It was messy and not okay.
Yeah, see, I if I'm gonna get my fix for that kind of character, like, I just watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's pretty
Yeah, there's lots of Woody Allen style comedy out there. It doesn't have to be Woody Allen.
Yeah, and Larry David he just does it better,
Yeah.
so it's like, if you want that kinda neurotic, with the asshole turned way up,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, if that's your thing, may not be.
I
It's
don't have
sometimes.
to cancel Woody Allen because I have no power, but the American film industry canceled Woody Allen. He cannot make film in the US anymore, so if that doesn't say anything, then there you go.
Yeah, who was the other guy? Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
See, and that's the irony there because Mia Farrow doesn't really denounce him. She doesn't
Right.
stop Roman Polanski, and which doesn't help her case because they're they're both bad guys. So yeah, but she didn't really bring him up a whole lot. So there you go.
Well, I mean, that 13-year-old girl, she was very seductive, that's
And they don't know. That's the thing is they don't know how old Soon-Yi. So it's Soon-Yi. Had an affair and married with this girl, and then he molested his daughter Dylan. But like Soon-Yi, they don't even know how old Soon-Yi was because she was adopted out of like extreme poverty. I forget if it was from Vietnam or I don't remember where they had adopted her from, but she was like living on the street at 3 years old, feeding herself and sleeping on the street, totally alone for like over a year. So they don't know who her parents were. They don't know how old she was. Her mother had dropped her off at a train station and said that someone was picking her up at the other end, and there was no one at the other end. So she had been homeless at 3 years old ish, maybe. But they said she could have been as much as 3 years younger than they actually thought she was because she was so malnourished and so tiny, and so they don't really know. So, yeah, so it's just
I mean, you could just I mean, probably would be good for her. You cut her open and count the rings, right?
that's a good idea. I see why you watched the Charlie Kirk video, though, now.
That
You
veteran
might be
humor,
wired
man.
differently.
Veteran humor.
Yeah.
It's like she's not a
Alright,
treat, Fred.
I'm gonna go jump off and put my kids to bed.
All right. No worries. Thanks for jumping in. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
let me hang out.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Ellie.
Alright, talk to you later.
Bye. So, we got another dispatch in the bag. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Always lovely to have Ellie Leonard on. You know, not so much, not so great to talk about Epstein, but it's good to talk about. Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. But yeah, I'm hoping to do more of these, now that I finally got some time back to myself. Like, my life's been a little chaotic as of lately. I've had a lot of big changes, a lot of things moving. So, yeah, normally I'm going to do a half hour, but you know what? If you get Ellie Leonard, you go for an hour, Oh, well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Enjoy your evening. And remember, keep the faith, defend democracy, and I'll see you later.